Yeah, we can see most valuable skills.
Right. So before I begin, I want to explain that my segment is a primer, okay? This concept of design thinking is quite large, and it can be a bit to digest. And we want to start small. So what we're going to do is start small and apply this to an individual, a life situation, before we get into how to apply it to a business situation. This slide here is the result of an engagement between the IIBA and KPMG in 2016. And you can see what happened was they surveyed thousands of people who are BAs and C-level executives that employ BAs to find out what is going to be the future of business analysis. And you can see clearly here that business knowledge and critical thinking and problem solving are still important in the future, but we add in leadership, creative and innovative thinking, and strategic thinking and analysis. And in my mind, design thinking is one of the most powerful skills that we can acquire as BAs to ensure our relevance in the future. And let me explain to you why I'm so excited about it. I started studying it back in October, November, and I have found it has made immense changes in my life. Not only do I apply it in my workplace, but I apply it at home. Things that problems that were presented to me, such as the car breaking down and there not being enough money, are now, I approach them with a sort of peace, a sense of peace, because I can apply design thinking to my situation and figure out how to address the problem in creative and unusual ways. And I tell you what, I haven't slept this well in years. And that may sound ridiculous, but it really is true. And I'm having so much fun at work as a result. People are starting to take notice that I'm able to provide unusual solutions and ideas to situations that are really outside the box. We as BAs are so often caught in the weeds. We're stuck down in the details, in the data, and that's not necessarily where we need to be to find creative and innovative solutions. We wind up ignoring radical change options. Design thinking is exactly the opposite of being caught in the weeds. It's an exercise in perspective and creativity, but it can be a bit daunting. Oops, I knew I would click the wrong button. So what you saw on Tony's slides was a few images like this. That can be a little intimidating. The process itself is, as he said, not linear. It is iterative. So we take a step and we analyze, and we take another step and we analyze, and we continually analyze, which is a good thing. And we see images. When I started researching design thinking online, you see images like this, where you have groups of people working together to prototype, and you have tables full of string and safety scissors and X-Acto knives and sticky notes, and they're supposed to build some representative prototype out of it. I have no creative or artistic skill whatsoever. So I found this to be intimidating. And we're not going to do that today. We're going to use our brains, we're going to use our creativity, and we're going to reason our way through a real life situation. In fact, this is my friend Claude. Claude is in a bit of a situation. I'm going to give you some of his background, his situation, before we get into applying the design thinking, because you need to understand and define the problem. And what often happens, so this is just an image of one of those cardboard prototypes completed. We're not going to do that today. So here's Claude. He's a little bit of an unhappy character these days. You can see in the center, that's Claude. He's bald. He is not happy. He's in a marriage that's really giving him a lot of struggle. He's not in accord with his wife. They live in a house that is costly, and there's a lot of strife around not only that cost, but the labor to maintain the house. Relatedly, there's a stress around money. They're spending all this money. They have very good incomes, but they spend a lot of money in the house. They squander money in areas that they shouldn't. And retirement is a very unsure topic. He wants to feel more secure. Now, work, on the other hand, is going very well, but the organization has been through 3 reorgs in the last 2 years. And it's a constant moving target as to where he will be sitting in the future. So while he's enjoying himself, there is a lack of security. Now that we've examined the facts of his situation, let's just explain that he's ready for change. But change is really hard. And it's risky too. So like, how do you know that the change will be an improvement? You often don't. And that's where design thinking is great, because it encourages us to create low-risk prototypes, to implement those prototypes, test to see whether it's an improvement, and then iterate again. In fact, most people are so inured in their life pattern that they don't look at radical options. And this is true for businesses as well, not just people, but businesses. Let's talk about disruption for a second. Look at Uber. Uber disrupted the transportation industry in a huge way. And disruption, for some terrible reason, only seems to come in from the outside. It's never introduced from the top. That would be called self-disruption. And design thinking is the most beautiful solution for self-disruption. Most people simply swap out what was not good for something that is possibly, maybe, hopefully better. And as business analysts, we rely on facts. We rely on facts, and we take those facts and we apply logic and reason to deduce an outcome that is hopefully better. It's left brain thinking, while design thinking makes use of the other brain, the right brain. It makes immense use of feelings and creativity. I don't know about you, but feelings are not my strong suit. Just ask my wife. Creativity, neither. It's why I'm a BA. But in truth, starting solution design with feelings can be far more efficient and often comes up with better results. And if you're in doubt about feelings as a driver, here's a fact I read last week in doing some research, because we BAs are often skeptical until we have supporting facts. In the 14 years since 2004, half of all design firm acquisitions by other companies took place last year. Half. So how products make you feel has become so central to product design that design firms are being gobbled up. In my workplace, I don't know about yours, but in mine, very often design is an afterfact, where we create a product, we give it to some designers and ask them to slap a pretty face on it. And very often those designers' excellent opinions are ignored because it's too much work, it's too costly, and unfortunately products fail all the time as a result. I hate to hear that. I hate to tell that story. It's a great idea, though, to start your own design firm, because you got a good chance of being gobbled up. Good retirement plan. Maybe I should tell Claude to do that. All right, and so we're talking about empathy, and a synonym for empathy is feelings. So let's look at the feelings that Claude was experiencing. When I spoke with Claude and we worked through this design thinking application, he felt trapped. He felt trapped in his marriage. He felt trapped in his home, which was costing too much money. He felt stagnant because he wasn't progressing in his life. He wasn't getting where he wanted to go. He felt hopeless and disconnected. Connection was a big deal to him. He wanted to feel connected to other people, connected to the land, to the environment. And I had him plot some things on a dashboard. So here's a view of the dashboard, and this could be retooled for any aspect that you're interested in evaluating. So we looked at love, play, work, and health. And as you can see, love and play were not so healthy, whereas work and health were very healthy. So there are opportunities for improvement. So we've kind of defined the problem here. And that problem is Claude's not happy. If you'd asked Claude what's wrong, he might have said, I'm married to the wrong person. But the problem really was much larger than that as we dug in. Now, in order to design a future that makes sense for him, we started to ask ourselves about what are the desired feelings. That's where we begin. It's empathy. So here are the feelings that he expected to have in the future. He wants to feel connected. As I said, he really wants to be with other people. He wants to be with like-minded people and spending a lot of time with those people, not just periodically, not spending 8 hours a day with his coworkers that he has nothing in common with. He wants to feel aligned with his beliefs and values. He's kind of a hippie at heart. He wants to be more in line with the environment, protection. He doesn't want to be reliant on big systems and going to the grocery store every day, which is part of the safety there. He also wants to have safety around his future, his retirement. It really concerns him that they don't have much put aside and they're getting up there in years. He really wants to feel stimulated. he needs to have intelligent discourse and humor. That's very, very important to him, and he needs to feel peaceful. The discord at home is a big problem. There's too much arguing, and it's got to go away. So now that we've looked at the desired feelings, we can start to prototype and ideate to find options that make sense. I've pushed the wrong button again. Okay, so we went through this ideation phase, and we put together 3 different options. Each one gets progressively more complicated. And this, guys, pay attention, because this is where I'm going to start asking for your involvement via chat, or you can unmute your microphone and toss some ideas out. So plan number 1, Claude is going to make some small modifications to his life. He wants to feel connected. So maybe there's a way to build community into his life. He wants to be more aligned with environmental concerns, with his social and economic concerns, and stimulated, safe, and peaceful. So I'm going to ask you to type into the chat window and give me some ideas as to what you think would be worthwhile changes to his life that he could prototype and then test. And I'm having trouble seeing that window. So maybe you could help me out, Tony. I haven't got 2 monitors today.
Yep, I've got one that says, join the IIBA Central Florida chapter.
So that goes under stimulated. I like that. That's good. He's a contractor, but that's right. Okay.
Volunteering in the community.
That's good. Connected. Yep.
Yep. Volunteer with an environmental group in his area.
Nice. Perfect.
Start a garden.
Start a garden. Perfect. I love that. Mm-hmm. That's very low risk.
And soothing sometimes.
And soothing.
Unless
and
you're
dirty.
me, I would probably kill half of my garden.
I'm with you.
All right. Make an effort to connect with colleagues and friends, maybe every Friday. And here's one read that I know you'll appreciate. Do yoga.
Yes, perfect. I like that. Those are all really simple. And I can't wait to get to the more radical ideas. But yeah, those are all right. So one of the issues was that safety, and we didn't cover safety, and that house was a big stress. So nobody mentioned this, but I'm sure you were possibly thinking it. One way to prototype a reduction in cost would be to go and rent an Airbnb, a smaller place nearby, and see what it's like to move to a smaller place that has lower cost, but is also probably quite a bit tighter. He lives pretty well right now. So would he be able to drop his standard of living and still be happy? Start attending meetups for intellectual engagement. And as you said, IIBA. Find community, yoga, look at O Weekly. I mean, that's really simple stuff. We're not talking about major changes there. It's you go and attend something. Buy a composting toilet. It's something that bothers him, that we defecate into fresh water and the rest of the world doesn't have fresh water. So it's a simple one. And like you said, start a garden. Very cool. So now under test, we have, at the time, I only came up with this one idea, and that was to use this gauge and mark graphically on a piece of paper what the gauge looks like now, and the gauge looks like when you're after, let's say, 4 weeks into applying some of these changes, and measure it over time. And we got a little bit more creative in the next one. So let's look at ideation plan number 2. Same concept. So how could we get even more radical? I'm going to ask the team again, what could we do that would be more radical changes to Claude's life to bring him all the things that he wants?
All right. So we're getting a little bigger with our ideas here, huh?
Yep.
All right. Ooh, here's one. Move to a new community.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, suggest a temp separation.
There you go. Very good. That's what the chain was there. Suggest a temp. Get that peace for a little while. And while that may be difficult to do, it can be the most beneficial thing sometimes.
Yeah. Go back to school. Ride a bicycle to work.
Ooh, I didn't think of that one.
Yeah, clever.
That might be viable.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think let's
okay.
get it. Yep.
Good. Those are all good ideas. Really good. And so volunteer work was one, and you mentioned that somebody mentioned that on the previous slide. It's a great idea. Maybe for intellectual engagement, go back to community college or look at an online degree, because those tend to be pretty low cost. Trial separation from the spouse, Airbnb a tiny house. So now we're talking about really radical changes. If he's super concerned about his retirement, he's got to do something radical to reduce his costs. And selling your house and buying a tiny house and just paying a lot rent can be a big difference. And maybe an option is build a community rather than just attending yoga classes. Maybe you start your own yoga class or meditation group or whatever it might be. And then I like this. This was good. Tony and I were brainstorming yesterday. We thought, hey, geez, we got to come up with some better way to test this than some stupid gauge. And we came up, and Tony said, well, what about his blood pressure? It's probably going to go down over time. So that's good. So you can start medically like that. That's a totally viable option. I mean, he's stressed out right now, and you might see a marked decrease in his blood pressure over time. Start diarizing, or keep a diary for a few months and see how that input changes over that time period. Some people love sleep apps, and I thought that would be a great idea. You run the sleep app from the beginning to the end and see, those apps graph your sleep quality over time. So it's real empirical evidence. And then you might also be able to, this was Tony's idea, is look at your reduction in drugs like Zoloft. Maybe he's on Zoloft. That's a great idea. I love that.
I love how you tabbed that one on me. Appreciate that.
Yep. The resident druggie past president.
Oh, zinger.
Plan 3. Who's got an idea for a really radical change? We were getting pretty close with find a new community.
All right. In the chat, what do you have? Big ideas. Thinking large. Maybe even bigger than large.
Ginormous.
This is so hard. ... Yes. This is why organizations have sticky notes on the boards. All right. Raise chickens for eggs and food. Ooh, join an improvisation group. Improvisation. Sorry.
Improv. Yeah, an improv. Yeah, that's good.
Sell your house. Start a nonprofit. Uh-huh. Let's see. I'll type it in here. Let's see. Oh, here's one. Become a minimalist.
I like that.
I'll type it in here just because.
Just because what? Well, I can't see it anyway.
Oh, I said get a divorce. Move to a low-cost country. Uh-huh.
Ooh, I didn't even think of that one. That's a great idea. Low-cost country. Yeah.
That's cool.
So that is radical, and that's what we want. The beauty of design thinking is that we don't throw out any ideas. We don't discard them.
No
All ideas are valid, and we simply refine them. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So here's what we came to as the most radical change. It was really to move to a commune. It seemed to fit everything that Claude was interested in. It gave him connection. It gave him alignment with values. Constant stimulation, because you're not sitting around on a commune and smoking bum wads. You're constantly busy building things, and self-governance is a big deal there. So you're aligned with others. It's very safe because you're growing your own food and you're trading with others. You have a sort of local and micro economy, and it's incredibly peaceful. You're in touch with the land. So how do you think we could prototype and test that? I'm really stretching your imaginations now, but how would you prototype this? Because you don't necessarily want to pick up and change your whole life, move to a commune, and not be able to go backwards. What if it doesn't work out right? What if you discover, oh my God, this was a terrible mistake? You need to have some safety. So the prototyping here has to do with, what can we do that's incredibly low risk? What do we got?
Rent your house.
Good. Rent your house.
Bit. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Spend a vacation there. Travel to Israel and live on kibbutz.
Kibbutz. Yes, very good. Excellent. So that's exactly right. Take a vacation to a community. They will rent you a room for a short time. Most communities across the U.S. and Canada, we discovered, will actually take prospective members in at no cost for a month. Others have a free, work to stay type arrangement. You could take a leave of absence from your job. A lot of organizations like mine allow that, depending on how critical you are. And we know I'm not critical, so I could probably go at any time. You could quit your job in the case that you're not that happy and you're marketable. You could come back and just rent out your house while you're gone. And finally, you could, if you were happy with a tiny house concept, you could quit your current job, sell the house, and take a tiny house with you. And what I like about that is that he'd be able to find positions wherever his house goes, wherever their work is. Very cool. And for testing, we figured we'd use the same metrics. Those would all be valid ways of testing these different solution options. So there you go. Those are the three massive life options that we've created for Claude, and he's in the process of implementing them, or considering them at least. What we'll do in a future meeting is try to apply this same design thinking concept to group work, where we're in a business setting. We're trying to self-disrupt and build a bunch of very creative options, and then build prototypes, much like the paper and wire pipe cleaner concepts we saw in the photos. So I hope that you found some value in that. Is there any questions or comments, things you want to talk about? Errors I made? Anybody want to make fun of Tony?
Had a chance to build a prototype? Sometimes it's not easy in our corporate worlds to have the opportunity, but maybe even in your personal life. Who's ever built a paper airplane? Prototype.
Prototype, exactly. Yeah.
Who's given up after the first iteration? This girl.
Yeah, I understand that.
What I do love about this is that, you can utilize this and scale it down. You can scale it down, scale it up, to solve a small problem in your life or at work, or, maybe even apply it at work on a larger project, if you get that approved through your project governance committee. So I love the process with design thinking.
So Reed, I have a question in terms of applying this to like your personal life, because we've been talking about applying it, helping somebody else ideate and iterate and prototype and test. But in terms of like my personal life, if I'm facing a challenge and I want to identify these ideas really quickly, is the goal to continue going through this cycle until I am uncomfortable? Is the goal to, I know Tony said you can scale it up, scale it down. Is the goal to like push myself to think really radical and then bring it to reality? Is it case by case?
I wouldn't think that you would be uncomfortable. I don't think discomfort is a necessary point in this exercise. In fact, I have found it to be incredibly freeing. As business analysts, you get an opportunity to forget your data, forget your ecosystems, forget your management, forget what committees would say no to inevitably, and throw all that out the window and start fresh and say, my God, my customers want to feel X, Y, and Z when they use our product. Or in my life, I am tired of feeling this emotion, and I will do anything to change it. What could I do that would be completely different? It's a really freeing thing.
It's really exciting to think about it that way, because so often in life we are told not to take risks and not to be radical and to take the safer route. So I really like the idea of how freeing it can be to, at least for this part of it, kind of freeing up your mind and taking it as far as you want, but being focused on what you're really trying to accomplish.
I've found that in practicing it just a few months, it has changed my perspective on things. I had a situation where we had the floors, we had the house inspected. I'm planning to sell the house, so I had it inspected to see what's wrong. Somebody came back and said, hey, Reed, the $11,000 that you spent on the floor 5 years ago accomplished nothing. there's no support whatsoever, and it has to be completely redone. And I tell you, I chewed on that for a while, but it didn't upset me the way it used to. I used to think, oh, woe is me, woe is me. I've got to spend another $11,000 to get this floor done right. And when I started applying some design thinking, it didn't bother me at all, because I came up with ideas, and one of those ideas was sue the contractor, and which I contacted the contractor, and he's going to take care of it. So it's a simple example, but just using mindset can make a big difference.
Nice.
Any other questions or thoughts? No, nothing. Okay. Well, I think this was a really worthwhile exercise. I hope that you guys found value in it too. And we're going to set up another session, as I said, about covering application of this to more of a business scenario where we work in teams. And we've got that board retreat next weekend where we'll start coming up with a year's worth of events. And we'll be in touch with you very soon. I think we'll send out this presentation